He was cleaning up the neighborhood in a group effort to rid the mess that had accumulated around the community when he finds little black puppies cold and abandoned in a pile of rubbish. With no other choice, he rushed them to the nearest vet in the area to try to save 5 tiny little bundles of life before it was too late. Craig McGettrick was happy to be part of a neighborhood cleanup in his area. The vicinity had become a dumping ground and would only get worse if something wasn't done about the growing problem soon. It was also just plain gross to look at every day, and he was eager to have a beautiful area outside his home again. Everybody spread out, armed with gloves, bags, shovels, and the motivation to really get stuck into the task at hand. No one expected to stumble upon 5 tiny lives stashed inside a mattress that had been heaped atop a pile of rubbish, bordering the woods. But that is exactly what Craig found. In a pile of discarded rubbish, Craig continued the difficult task of bagging what he could and transporting the bigger items to cars nearby for removal. This pile contained an old mattress that began moving and squeaking when Craig pulled it towards himself. He stopped what he was doing and immediately began searching for the source of the noise. He wasn't expecting to find 5 tiny black puppies. There were 2 things running through Craig's mind as they spied the tiny pups with their eyes still shut. One was that people had abandoned the puppies, knowing that during the cleanup effort happening today someone would find them and give them the proper care. The other was that a stray mother dog had abandoned them in the heap and moved on. Either way, he was left with no choice. He called to his friend Becky, and together they rushed to find a cardboard box to house the pups on the way to the vet. They lined it with anything soft they could find and found a hot water bottle to add to the makeshift den to keep the babies from catching a chill during transportation. When they got to the vet, things started to get a bit weird. The vet was part of an animal rescue center, and the pups would be cared for until they were able to find new homes for them. They needed to be fed every few hours with a bottle and puppy replacement milk for them to grow up strong and healthy. Puppies with their eyes still closed are way too young to survive on their own. They would need a miracle to pull through. Craig and Becky handed the impossibly cute pups over to the capable people at the Liverpool Animal Center. But just before they did that, they snapped some photos to remember them by. They wanted to post these pics on social media and see if they could get a lead as to who dumped them there. Or was there more to this story? Other than a cruel-hearted human owner that threw a litter of unwanted puppies into a rubbish heap, there may be another theory. It crossed Craig's mind. Perhaps, and it was unlikely in this neighborhood, but just perhaps a stray mother dog had given birth in that mattress. What they found out on Facebook wasn't what they expected. Instead of offers of good homes for the pups, people started saying some pretty strange things. When a keen-eyed Facebook user had seen the photos of the adorable puppies on Facebook, she took a double take. She didn't want to cause a stir if she wasn't right, so she carefully checked her information. What immediately stood out were the little creatures' snouts. But there was another telltale sign that these weren't puppies at all. Suddenly, Craig's Facebook post exploded with people starting to speculate as to what the puppies could be. Hundreds of posts came through in minutes, flooding the post with speculation and doubt. Anything and everything seemed to be fair game in the contest of, what baby is it? Some of the suggestions will astonish you. The general public seemed to think they were not pups at all. In fact, one commenter was completely sure they were something else entirely. There were specific details that lead people to believe that puppies they were not. For one was the long noses in the particular picture. Sure, it could be that some dogs have long noses, almost like baby raccoons, but there were other strange things too. Another Facebook user noticed that the tails were unlike any puppy he had ever seen. They were very long, almost half the length of the pups' little bodies. To him, he was sure that the puppies were, in fact, some type of wild rodent. I mean, if you look at rats when they are born, they have incredibly long tails. Of course, he had no means to judge size from a photo, so it was completely possible. Still, something wasn't adding up here. Posting the pictures online seemed to be getting them nowhere. Everything was speculation and guesswork. Their initial reason for posting online was simply to see if they could find where the puppies came from, and in the best case scenario, to see if they could secure wonderful forever homes for the abandoned fur babies. But one comment took them by surprise. The information they received in a direct message was something that sent shockwaves through them. It came directly from a welfare authority, so they knew the information was founded on truth and knowledge. One thing was for certain now: they had to get those puppies back from the animal rescue center and take them straight back to where they were found right away. Time may have already been running out. Founder of the National Fox Welfare Authority, Martin Hemington, contacted Becky via Facebook and told her that the pups they had mistaken for dogs were in fact not dogs at all. They were very young foxes. Obviously, No one was going to claim fox babies, so the only option was to put them back where they were found and hope Mom came back to feed them. There was one problem though. The rubbish pile containing Mom Fox's den for her cubs had already been removed as the cleanup continued, and there was no way to put them where they had once been. The experts would need to be called in. Once again, they were put in contact with the National Fox Welfare Authority, who were happy to help. Paul McDonald, a local rescuer with Freshfields Animal Rescue, was called in by Hemington to assist with the release of the cubs. He had some surprising advice about baby foxes. Fox cubs don't initially look like foxes when they are cubs, so it's common for people to mistake them for dog puppies. Paul McDonald, also known as the Foxman, explained. They are brown in color as opposed to the red, ginger color of adults. And he explained how it was that they got to be found all alone under a mattress too. Vixens leave their cubs all the time whilst they are in the den, and as they get older they'll begin to explore their surroundings more and more, and become less dependent on Mum as they get older, McDonald said. Because the pups were newborns, they would have to find their mother. That was the #1 priority, even if it meant not feeding them. It had been a busy day for the 5 tiny canines, and by now they were surely very hungry. There was no puppy milk to feed them, and in this instance, it wasn't actually a bad thing because McDonald had a clever trick up his sleeve to reunite the mother with babies again. I didn't give the cubs any milk in order for them to be hungry so they'd cry out and call for their mum, which they did, McDonald said. I put them around the same place they were found, as I knew the mum would be looking for them, and she'd be checking the place she last had them. It would be a tense waiting game, watching to see if Mom would return. It was 4 o'clock when McDonald finally got to the kit's den site. The mattress may have been gone, but Mom would have a backup den nearby. So he gently put the cardboard box on the ground and left them just like that, with only a hot water bottle to keep them warm while everyone waited. A long hour took forever to pass before they finally caught glimpse of a slinky mother fox coming to investigate the box on the ground. She just couldn't stay away from the cries of her hungry babies calling for her. She checked inside and then firmly gripped one cub by its neck and took it away with her, but she didn't come back. For another few hours McDonald waited patiently. He knew exactly what had happened. I believe once she'd picked the first one up and knew the others were safe in the box, she waited until it got dark to get the rest, as she must not have felt safe moving the cubs in daylight, McDonald said. Sure enough, as the sun lost its hold on the world, she returned for another and then another until they were all back where they belonged. By 7 o'clock, the vixen had taken every single one of her babies. Paul texted me a photo of the empty box, Hemington wrote on Facebook. All through this, I was letting Becky and Craig know, and everyone was so pleased that the cubs were back where they belonged, with Mum. McDonald, too, couldn't be happier with the resolution. It made me feel ecstatic that the cubs went back to their mum, as it would have been a tragedy not only for the cubs not being brought up by their own mother but for the mother to lose her cubs, McDonald said. This is without a doubt the best kind of rescue in my line of work, when nature is allowed to take its own course. If you enjoyed this story, wait for our next story starting in 10 seconds. The dogs were more excited than usual today. They dashed on ahead into the trees and out of sight. When they finally caught up, they saw that their cream Labrador was digging furiously. "What you got there, boy?" she called, but as she drew nearer, she saw it, something rusted, sticking out from the dirt. The fateful walk began simply enough. Our Californian couple, who wished to remain unnamed, was out strolling through the wooded area of their sprawling property with their pack of dogs, as they did every weekend. But they never expected to find something so incredible hidden there, right in their neighbor's yard, where it had lain untouched for over a century. They were about to make a discovery that would change their lives. As the dog continued to dig furiously, he started to uncover the mystery. An old and rusted paint can started to emerge from the soil, and the couple noticed it immediately. Curious, they started to dig around it with a stick until they could lift it from its hiding place. It was heavy and sealed shut with an old, rusted lid. Someone had taken great care to conceal whatever was inside, but why? The man tried to muscle open the container, but it was rusted firmly shut. He held it up to his ear and shook it carefully from side to side, and the contents moved with a weighty clack, clack. What could possibly be inside? Our now famous couple would have to wait a little longer to find out. The couple's lazy stroll had been disrupted. They turned around and made a beeline for their home, where they could find something to pry the lid of the mysterious container open and reveal what lay inside. Wild speculations flew through their excited minds. but they could never have imagined the enormity of what they had just stumbled upon. The walk home seemed to last for hours as their anticipation grew. Every homeowner dreams of discovering something exciting on his property, and they took wild guesses as to what could be inside the old can. It was clearly old, but just how old? He imagined that it was filled with mementos, jewelry and valuables that had been stashed away during World War II. She jokingly said maybe it was just filled with rocks and dirt, but how very wrong both guesses were. Finally, their home was in sight. He rushed to fetch a pair of pliers and a hacksaw, while she waited in the back garden. Finally, he emerged with a wide grin and began the task of opening the rusted old can. He squeezed the top firmly with the pliers and twisted, and the lid came loose, spraying dried clods of dirt and dust as it fell. Barely containing himself, he peered inside. His first glimpse into the darkness inside the can didn't reveal much about its contents, and he was dismayed to see that his wife had been right. There was indeed dirt and gravel inside. The soil inside was damp and packed, but then something shiny caught his eye as it caught the light, and he knew that they would have to dig deeper to reveal the contents inside. He gingerly poked around inside the can with his finger, getting damp soil under his nails. Then, his fingertips felt something different, sticking out from beneath the sand and gravel that had been packed into the rusty old paint can. Something cool and smooth, with ribbed edges. Something that felt like metal. "I've found something," he whispered, and his wife jumped up and down with excitement. "Pull it out, carefully," she said excitedly, barely able to contain herself as her husband pulled a shiny coin from the debris at the bottom of the can. It was old and dirty, but it still gleamed. The couple looked at each other for a second, eyes wide in amazement, before the man shoved his hand into the can again, this time to pull out a handful of the mysterious coins. As coin after coin emerged, the couple gasped in amazement. After gently wiping the mud away from them with a sleeve, they held them in the light to get a better look. The first one was dated 1886, it was unbelievable. The couple grabbed the remaining coins on the table to inspect, and the other coins in the mysterious stash didn't disappoint. All in all, there were over 100 of the old coins in the rusty can. The couple couldn't believe their luck. And the more they pulled out, the more their astonishment grew. Little did they know, the rusted can was just the beginning of the mystery. But where had the coins come from? And just how much would the old coins be worth? At that moment, the lucky couple only had one question on their mind. Were there more coins stashed in the ground on the property? There was only one way to find out. So they set out to the place they had found the first stash in search of more buried treasure. To their delight, with a little digging they started to uncover more rusted cans. Can after can was pulled from the earth, and coin after coin was found inside the old cans. The stash seemed never-ending. The couple was thrilled with their unexpected windfall. After all, who actually finds buried treasure? The sheer scale of the coin hoard they had stumbled upon turned out to be jaw-dropping. Most of the coins were from 1847 and 1894, making the coins over a century old, dating back to California's gold rush days in the 1800s. But the date alone wouldn't determine the true value of the coins, it was also the sheer volume. The Californian couple had unearthed a staggering total of 1,400 old coins, and even more surprising, they were in amazing condition. As soon as the excitement died down and an appraiser was called in, the couple was given the news. Most of the coins that they had found were $20 gold pieces, also known as double eagles. And the surprises just kept coming. Douglas Mudd, the director and curator of the American Numismatic Association's Money Museum, explained that some of the coins in the hoard were even rarer, such as the $5 piece known as a Dahlonega half-eagle. But just where had the coins come from? When experts inspected the gold coins, they speculated that, based on the dates of the coins and the cans they were found in, the coin hoard may have been slowly buried over a span of time. The total face value of the coins, $28,000. That was a lot of money in the late 1800s, Mudd explains. A huge amount. But who would have buried a fortune in the ground? You get a lot of hoards in Europe. Coins buried for hundreds or thousands of years, says Mudd, but they're less common in the US. Our history isn't that long, and for most of the time we've had banks, so people have tended to put their money there. So that leaves only a few likely explanations for the Saddle Ridge hoard, as the collection has come to be known. The massive stash of coins was most probably buried on the couple's land by an outlaw on the run, says Mudd. A book called Gold is the Key makes a link between the coins and a local bank robbery and murder in 1859. But just how much is the incredible find worth? The answer to the coin's estimated value is absolutely staggering, at $10 million in today's market. But the question on everyone's lips is, what will they do with all that money? Some of the rare gold coins were estimated to be worth $1 million on their own. That is a sum of money most can only dream of, but the extremely lucky and elated couple have decided to do the noble thing and pay off their outstanding bills, and then donate the rest of the valuable coins to various charities within their community.